Yandere simulator. Where do I even begin? Now, I'm not gonna say I'm a pro and know absolutely everything about the game and its history, but I did grow up watching hours of countless popular YouTubers play it and thoroughly enjoyed the game myself. That was until I learned about the dev and his interesting history, to say the least. You saw the thumbnail, you know what you're getting yourself into. I'm Karmi, and today I'm going to be redesigning Ayano, Osoros, Oka, and Amai. Let's get started. Now, with Ayano, I always liked her simple design since she's supposed to feel, at least in my opinion, like a placeholder for the player. You'll notice straight away I didn't sketch Ayano digitally. For some reason, I just never liked sketching on my phone and always preferred my notebook. So all of my sketches will be traditional. Hopefully that doesn't bother anyone, but this is my video, so who cares? The first step to redesigning my Ayano was getting rid of that ugly uniform, which always seemed a bit childish to me, and I wanted the students to look more mature since they're supposed to be 18, but we all know that's an excuse to get away with certain things. I honestly don't understand why most media such as cartoons, adult shows, and games take place in high school instead of a college. I feel like it would make a lot more sense if Yanderesimulator took place in a college, since every character would be a grown adult, instead of having to work around the complications of your character being underage. I also decided to keep Ayano's ponytail and overall look the same, but I didn't want my Ayano to act the same. I wanted my Ayano to be reserved and quiet, just like in game, but not in the shy way. More like, she's so focused on schoolwork, she doesn't see the point of anything else, especially friendships. Maybe her parents tell her to focus more on her studies, so all she does is study, and because she's emotionless, that's the only thing that gives her meaning and or distracts her. Maybe when she started liking senpai, she was first confused and in denial because she never truly had a crush, and only told herself to strive for a successful career. I'm probably thinking too hard about her personality, but I would like for Ayano to have some character besides being emotionless and obsessed with senpai. Right now, I just finished choosing colors for Ayano, and you can see I went with a darker color palette. I like the look of navy blue and dark red. I think they look very nice and pleasing to the eyes, so that's what I went with for the normal uniform. The uniform itself consists of a white button-up, a navy blue jacket, and a red plaid skirt. Just like in-game, I decided to give the students more room to accessorize themselves, because not only does it help me make the characters more diverse and distinct from one another, but it also adds to the story and what the school would be like for the students. The few things that could be changed or accessorized are hairstyles, arm warmers, leg warmers, tights, whether you want to wear your jacket or not, and whether you want your skirt to be longer or slightly shorter. I was actually a big fan of the tights from Yanderesimulator. I thought they were fun and a nice way to show individuality between characters. That was until I found out Yandere Dev had a fetish for thigh highs. Yeah, not so fun anymore. Besides that, I think these options work well with the characters and show peaks of their personality without fully changing their uniform. I know my art style isn't super crazy, it's pretty simple and stylized actually, but compared to the game's artwork, I never really liked it. Not because the art was bad per se, but because of the way the artist outlined certain aspects. Like, why are the boobs and crotch so highlighted with the shading? It never made sense to me, and I always found it super unflattering and weird. Especially with the fact that all the female students had big boobs, there was literally no diversity between body types. Hopefully, I'm not the only one who found it odd. Right here you can see me finishing up some shading and the background. I didn't want the shading to be super complicated, especially since I'm drawing 4 characters in this video, which I surprisingly drew pretty fast. I believe the maximum amount of time I took for each drawing was 2 hours and 20 minutes, not including the sketch of course. The rest of the shading is just airbrush and hard shadows, maybe some highlights here and there, but like I said, nothing too complicated. And there she is! This is my Ayano Aishi. The next one I chose to redesign was Osoros, mainly because I never see her get drawn in other redesign videos. And my homegirl needs some love too. When I was younger, Osoru never stood out to me or anything. Probably because she's not even in the game yet, even after a decade. But as I got older, I started liking her a lot more. I think it's cool to see someone like Osoru be the leader of the delinquents. I also liked her design a lot. Her hair was blonde and spiky to show that she was a little sharper around the edges. She had bandages everywhere to convey she probably liked getting into fights often. And I liked how her jacket made her silhouette interesting. But come on, look at that thing. It probably falls off her shoulders every time she moves. So, to fix that, I decided to make it tied around her waist. I also made her skirt longer because I figured fighting in a short skirt can't be comfortable. I feel like she doesn't hate the skirt itself, but hates how it limits her ability to do things. I don't know if anybody else understands that. Anyways, I don't think we know a lot about Osoru besides the fact that she's a delinquent. So in my story, I wanted her to be tough, stoic, and rude straight off the bat. Kinda like how Osoru is presented in Yandere Simulator. Except, she doesn't instantly fall in love with Senpai. No, I want her to be rude to them too from the start. But after seeing how Senpai always showed her with kindness and patience, she slowly dropped her guard and developed feelings. I think that storyline would be a lot more compelling and add more to Osoru's personality, but that's just my opinion. I made her skin more tan than the other girls as well because when I think of a delinquent, I think about how they're probably always outside or something. I don't know. Sue me. I also think it looks good with her color palette and makes her look very warm toned. Wow, I'm probably being super repetitive right now. Sorry about that. This is actually my first time writing a script for a long form video, or really any video of that matter, even though this idea has been on my mind since 2023. Of course, I never actually got around to it because of school and my procrastination. But it's finally summer and I have all the free time in the world to do something. I'm also hyper aware of how unproductive I am, so maybe that's why I'm forcing myself to make this video. Minus that, I'm having a pretty fun time drawing and writing my thoughts down. It kind of feels like a creative exercise. Anyhow, I almost forgot to mention that I wanted Osoru to be muscular. However, I couldn't exactly figure out how to showcase that since she's pretty covered up. So I just dropped it and continued working. It's okay, she'll just be secretly buff in my heart. And here is Osoru's Shindesu. I love her so much, especially with the way I drew her face. It's very sharp and angular. Oka was always my personal favorite when I was a kid. Maybe it was because of her style or the edginess of her character. I mean, she is the leader of the occult club. She has to have some edge to herself. Whatever it was, it seemed to resonate a lot with the fan base as well. Out of all the girls, I changed Oka the most noticeable difference being her hair. The reason I made her hair more longer and wavy was to have a bit of diversity in hair types, since both Ayano and Osoru already have short and straight hair. I like to think Oka would use her long hair to hide behind when she felt shy and embarrassed, kind of like Fluttershy. And if you're wondering, yes, she was heavily based off Fluttershy. I also made her skirt the longest because I wanted to convey that she was quieter and more reserved, maybe even modest. As for how she meets Senpai, I have no idea because Oka isn't actually in the game either. What a shocker. At least from what I remember, they took her out of the game. Totally not like this happens to every rival in the game. And don't even get me started on how long it took Yandere to get Osana. Despite that, I decided that in my story, Oka and Senpai would meet at the library after school or something. Maybe they'd do that cheesy thing in romances where they reach for the same book and accidentally touch hands. I don't know, I'm just brainstorming. On a side note, I feel like the weeks in Yandere Simulator go by too fast. What I mean by that is, once a rival gets introduced, Ayano has an in-game week to eliminate them before they confess to Senpai on Friday. Once they do, it's game over for the player and they have to restart. That's fine. But I feel like in between each rival elimination, Ayano should get a moment with Senpai to get closer to them and quote-unquote comfort them. Kind of like a shoulder Senpai can fall back and rely on. In my mind, this gives Ayano a way to become more manipulative, and build up her darker side, especially with Senpai. I guess the main thing I'm unhappy with about Ayano is her lack of time to work with senpai, since each rival gets a week dedicated to them, but Ayano hasn't even had a conversation with senpai yet. Honestly, if I were in charge of Yandere Simulator, I'd change a lot of things. It probably wouldn't even look like the same game. One cool change I could think of, which was actually in the earlier builds, is the ability to customize senpai. I thought that was such a unique idea, and it gave the player so much more freedom to adjust senpai to their preferences. I have no idea what happened to that option in the later builds, but I feel like Yandere dev either forgot about that system or completely removed it, since senpai pretty much is a self-insert. I know, how annoying. Oof. I mean, if you really think about it, senpai has no personality or character traits besides being kind and smart. Which is fine, but boring. The closest thing we get to senpai having a personality is that one animation where he throws trash and misses. That scene is actually quite charming and funny, but that's all we get. There's nothing else to work with. Also, if you're wondering why I made Oka's shirt gray instead of white, well, that's just because it fit her color scheme better. But, to make it work with the school uniform, I'll just say the students can pick between white, gray, and black shirts. It's the same shirt, there's just more variety in the colors for the students to pick from. Oka took the most amount of time to draw because there was actually more to draw. But I'm not complaining, she was still very fun to draw. And here is Oka Ruto. I think she looks so pretty, and I'm really happy with her. The last one I'm redesigning is Amai. Amai was also one of my favorites and still is to this day. I don't know why I always gravitated towards the cooking characters, but I just did, and Amai was no exception. When I was younger, I thought it was really funny when YouTubers would gravitate towards Amai because she could cook rather than liking senpai. And I completely agree. If I could, I too would pick Amai as my senpai. I love food. I also think her story of how she meets senpai is charming and does a great job of showing Amai's naturally kind nature. I don't think I would change her introduction or personality at all from the game. Out of all the redesigns I did, I changed Amai the least because I actually liked her design already. I love her soft color palette, and the accessories she wears really tell the player that Amai is the cooking club leader. Ironically, I feel like out of all my redesigns, I like Amai the least. There's just something about my drawing that's throwing me off. I think it's the colors I picked, but oh well, it's a bit too late for that now. I kept her hair short and made it more wavy as well. I think the wavy hair really adds to the cute factor, which Amai is supposed to be. I also tried to make her a bit plumper, which I know it's very controversial, and I completely understand why. Most people point out that when artists redesign Amai as plus size, it's because she can cook. But that's not always the case. Usually when you're designing a character, you want to use shape language to convey a way a character's personality might be like. And you can see that used a lot in cartoons actually. That's the reason why I personally tried to make her a bit curvier, and failed. But I can understand why things like this rub people the wrong way, and I'm not going to defend it wholeheartedly. I still have quite a lot to learn about when it comes to art, but I hope I can improve more in the future. Speaking of future, I'm not sure if I do a part 2 to this video. I don't exactly care about the rest of the rivals, and like 3 of them are very problematic. If you're wondering who those characters are, it's Midorana, Muha Kina, and Hanako Yamada. Those were so hard to say. 2 of those rivals being full-grown adults, and the 3rd one being Senpai's younger sister. I don't think I even need to explain how messed up that is, because what? I remember when I was younger, I tried to make sense of it so it wouldn't be so weird, but no matter what way you sliced it, that was still his blood sister, and I know for a fact Yandere dev had some sick intent for Hanako. The other 2 are obviously just as odd as Hanako. Mita would be introduced into the game as Senpai's teacher, but with the way she looks, you can tell exactly what roles she's supposed to play. She's supposed to be the seductive and mature character who tries to seduce him, and that's just so disgusting. Do I even need to continue? On the other hand, Muhar is a ditzy and clumsy nurse student in her early 20s. There's honestly nothing special about her in my eyes besides the fact that she's an adult, but apparently, Yandere Dev did give some information about how she interacts with Senpai. I'm not gonna read it, I'm just gonna put the post right here. If you want, you can pause and read it. It's all on Muha's wiki if you're curious, which I don't know why you would be, but whatever, I'm not judging. As you can tell, I'm not a big fan of these characters, so if I were to make a part 2, I wouldn't draw them. Anyways, here is Amai Oriyaka. She's not my best work, but I'm still happy with the way she came out. And that's the end of my video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it because this honestly took quite a lot of work and time. I'd say it took about 2 weeks, but if I had to count my procrastination as well, I would say a month because I just really didn't want to write a script. I know, embarrassing. I really hope this video does well since it's technically my first long form video, but if not, that's okay, and I'll just keep trying to work harder in the future. I can't really guarantee anything for the future since my school is gonna open up very soon by the time this video uploads, but I do hope I can make this into maybe a career or just a fun hobby on the side while I finish school. And that's all. I just really wanted to have a heart-to-heart at the end of this video because, like I said, this is my first one. I'm Carmi, and thank you for watching. Bye!